what is the benefit of moving like an intelligence operative? I know when we talk about an intelligence operative, we might think of guys like James Bond, people like that, which is okay. He is an example of a spy, right? And a lot of people admire that because he moves with such agency. He's always on the move, always making big moves and so on. But you could move like an intelligence operative, but on that more realistic level. Within your own life, you could use some of those skills in real life. It's not just movie stuff. The movie stuff is always exaggerated, and of course there's a lot of violence and things. But even as a peaceful, law-abiding individual or citizen, you can still move as an intelligence operative in the sense that you apply the same sort of skills, but in your real life, on the level in which you operate in your daily life, because information can be used as a weapon. Information itself is power, which means that, of course, it can be used as a weapon. And a lot of the times, the information that we encounter nowadays is disinformation and misinformation being used as weapons against us as the people. So when you move as an intelligence operative, you already have this understanding. You already know that there are a lot of disinformation and misinformation campaigns out there which we encounter every day. So your job as this operative is to recognize these campaigns when you're faced with them. That way you're not fooled. You're not gullible. You're not naive. You know what time it is. The operative mindset helps you to identify those rogue elements within our society who are trying to manipulate us. And sometimes these are trusted politicians. So when you are an operative in your mind, or you have the mind of an operative, you're not easily fooled. You're too smart for that crap. So that's an important trait to have, being able to recognize misinformation, disinformation. So the intelligence operative is normally one who is trained to assess the credibility of sources. So this is what you should do in your life whenever you encounter certain information. Think about who this source is. Who's this person? Who's this article written by? Who is the podcaster that you're listening to? Can you really trust them? When you have that questioning mind, when faced with information, you're well on your way to becoming an effective operative. You're not somebody that is just going to accept any type of information, because you're going to ask yourself, okay, what are this person's interests? Is it possible that they may be biased against a certain group or against a certain person, so that their information is actually meant to tarnish or in a way enhance somebody else's status within your mind as a reader? So you have to think about all of these things. You don't want to be manipulated. You're too smart for that. You have to always be prepared to evaluate the sources of information that you encounter and that you use in your life in general. Learn to recognize patterns, because in the life that we live in, there are certain patterns and trends. So an operative looks for connections, anomalies, recurring themes that might reveal underlying agendas or emerging crises within society. Sometimes there's actually a crisis that's actually unfolding. And when you do not look for those patterns, you won't be able to read between the lines and see the bigger picture. When you move as an operative, you recognize the patterns. You're able to read between the lines. You're able to see a greater picture that the ordinary masses or the ordinary lay person on the street can't see. But this skill, this intelligence operative skill, is something that you can easily have. It's right there, at the tip of your fingers. Anybody can move and think as an intelligence operative. It's not something that's just in the movies. You can move as an intelligence operative if you choose to. There are such things as psychological operations. Media itself is a tool that is used to conduct these psychological operations, because the media, whether it's traditional or social media, can be used as a tool for propaganda. All of these people sometimes that emerge, whether it's your favorite socialites or these influencers, are being used. A lot of them are being used as tools in psychological operations on populations, not just in America, but just in the world in general. It's almost like America sets the tone for the rest of the world. They set the tone, they set the standard. So the things happening over there, you look for them even within our society, you see them. So you see, an intelligence operative understands how narratives are constructed, how emotions are targeted, and how specific language or imagery can be used to influence public perception. And as I said, those people who are used to do that is usually just your socialites, journalists, and people of that sort. But when you have this information, when you are aware of this, you are inoculated against manipulation. You're impossible to manipulate because you are an intelligence operative in your own right. There's a lot of advantages when you decide to move as an intelligence operative, because then you enhance your personal and professional decision making. You don't just make decisions. You first make a risk assessment. You see, because operatives are constantly assessing risk. It's all about anticipating potential pitfalls and preparing for them. When you have that mind of the operative, you don't just make foolish, uninformed decisions. You look at everything before you even make a decision. By analyzing information and understanding the underlying dynamics, an operative can predict future events or their likely impact. Information can help you to see what's coming. So it's not about clairvoyance. It's not about having some magical powers or having the power. Those people who come out and say, oh, God told me this and that happened. No, it's just logical deduction based on available intelligence. You too can be able to make certain predictions. You make sure that you are proactive rather than just choosing to be reactive. You are actually taking part in the things that are happening within your society. You're right in the front lines. When it comes to things like social change, you are a part of that change. You embody that change. You are the change. Even within personal relationships, things are not just happening to you. You're making things happen. So you are never caught off guard because you move as an operative. You make things happen in your life. You make things happen. Things don't just happen to you. You understand the role that you play in your life. You are able to anticipate certain things. You are able to make predictions about your life and the things that happen around you because you're right at the forefront of those things. See, that's the difference between the operative and just the ordinary person who's being moved to act by the government or by external forces. We don't want to be those people who are moved to act by external forces. We don't want that, right? Intelligence work demands objectivity. It's about separating facts from feelings. Nobody cares about your feelings. So in a world often driven by sensationalism and emotional appeals, an operative mindset helps you maintain a cool head. You analyze situations dispassionately, and you make decisions based on evidence, not impulse. You engage in strategic thinking. Every action, you already understand, has a reaction. Operative thinks several steps ahead, So you're always ahead of your time. The way you plan your career as a young man or woman, the way you manage your finances, the way you navigate complex social situations is different. It reflects a mind that is informed, that has enough intelligence to act. So it's about understanding the long-term consequences of the actions that you are partaking in now. So let's just say you decide that you want to study. You've already calculated how that is going to be of use in the future. So you think strategically. You don't just do things. The intelligence operative is always mindful and always aware when it comes to issues of personal security. You always have to be aware of your surroundings. Who is around you? What are they doing? If anything is out of place, you have to be aware of what it is, because this is how you're going to be safe in any environment, because you're already aware of any potential threats within that space. So this also applies even when it comes to your digital life, your digital footprint. What's going on around that? What are the potential threats in your footprint? That's important. See, that's the mind of the operative in you, when you're always constantly aware of these things, right? The intelligence operative is able to plant himself in any situation, and they can still maneuver their way through. You put them around dignitaries, or you place them around diplomats. They are able to have conversations. They can have conversations with government ministers, with medical doctors. They can have a conversation with a lawyer. They can sit with the lady at the market and talk and have a great conversation. You can go into a bottle store deep in some rural town or a growth point, spend some hours having great conversations with the people over there. So that's because the intelligence operative understands his environment. He has an understanding of group psychology, what motivates people. He understands the power structures of the society. So the skill of the operative helps him to navigate so many different social interactions. And he's actually able to build effective networks because he understands his community, the different family settings within the broader society. That is the kind of mindset that you want to cultivate within yourself, right? So you have to learn to protect your information if you're going to be an intelligence operative, because all intelligence agencies protect their information. So you have to learn how to protect your personal data. The operative mindset emphasizes digital hygiene and understanding how your information can be used or misused by others. You always have to be fully aware of that. So you always are very mindful of how you use your information, of what information you allow others to see or to have access to. So you have to be protective of your information. If you're going to think and move as an operative, you have to be protective of your information. And one of the even more important characteristics or things that you must learn is being able to detect deception. When someone is lying to you, you have to be able to see that, because intelligence operatives are trained to spot inconsistencies and evasiveness and other signs of deception. When you're speaking to someone, you could tell that, okay, he tried to avoid that question. So this is an invaluable skill in personal and professional relationships that when you have, it helps you to discern sincerity and to identify manipulative behavior from people. Very, very important. So I want you to think about these traits that we've discussed. You actually can teach yourself to move as an intelligence operative, whether you are in America, whether you're in Australia, whether you're in London. When you have that mindset, you're always watching yourself, where you are, what's going on, your own decisions. You become a force to reckon with. So within the context of Zimbabwe, you have to understand that in the Zimbabwean environment, the media landscape here is heavily influenced and controlled by the government. So you have to always have that ability to critically analyze news and to identify propaganda. It is very crucial here in Zimbabwe. So, you have to develop that media literacy to understand which voices are amplified and which voices are silenced. What are the narratives that are being pushed? You have to be able to make this analysis. You have to be attuned to the local sentiment. How are people thinking? When you go to the barber shop, the conversations with the barber, with the hairstylist, is going to tell you a lot about what's happening within our society, because it's those conversations that allow you to see how things are moving in the direction that we may be moving as a society. So I'm just saying local sentiment is very important. So if you're going to move as an intelligence operative, you have to be fully tuned in. You have to know what's going on. You also have to understand, especially when you read the news or when you watch the news and things like that, there's always subtle shifts in power or policy that may not be explicitly reported. So you have to look at things very carefully, the headlines, all of that. It gives you an idea of what's happening. But another thing, especially within the Zimbabwean context, economic foresight. We know that economic stability can be very unpredictable within Zimbabwe. So as one who has an operative mindset, I would encourage you to analyze economic indicators, understand global and local influences. That allows you to make informed decisions about your livelihood, how you make investments, being perceptive about local issues. How are resources being distributed within your community, and what is needed within your community. And you also have to think about how you can contribute to community resilience and address challenges proactively rather than being a passive recipient of external decisions or events. Again, you see, you have to be at the forefront. When you move as an operative, you are at the forefront. You're not just a passive recipient of external decisions or events. You are right there at the forefront. That's what operatives do. Moving like an intelligence operative is about cultivating critical thinking, which is the ability to analyze information objectively, identifying biases, and forming reasoned judgments. It's about perceptiveness, being observant and attuned to subtle details and non-obvious cues as well. That is the life of an intelligence operative. All right. Peace.